This episode of Area Code Batavia is sponsored by Zen Loft Collective. Register now with the link in the show notes to receive $20 off a class or package using the discount code AREACODE. This episode of Area Code Batavia is brought to you by Bulldog Plumbing Incorporated. For more information or to schedule an appointment, visit their website in the show notes or give them a call at 630-313-9109. Hey everybody, you're listening to Area Code Batavia, a podcast about what it means to belong in Batavia. I'm your host, Richard Clark. Today, I'm talking to Kelly Vida, the owner of Zen Loft Collective, about her personal journey in starting Zen Loft Collective in Batavia and what she's learned from it. I think we all experience times and seasons in our life where we feel alone because of the specific season we're experiencing. And that happens to all of us. The other day, I checked out Zen Loft Collective's open house. I was invited after they became a sponsor of Area Code Batavia, and I wanted to see what they were all about. Zen Loft Collective is a collection of wellness spaces and offerings that's located in the heart of downtown. They offer yoga, massage therapy, and a bunch of other things geared towards women and families. One of the things I noticed when I attended this open house was the diversity of offerings that were available and the degree to which they all talked to each other and sort of collaborated into this singular, coherent community. I was really impacted by this conversation because it reminded me that a lot of times what we think of as self-care is actually a pretty lonely exercise, and that what we actually need is a community that's going to come alongside us and help us thrive. And so I hope that in this conversation, you'll both feel less alone because you're hearing the conversation, but also you'll take action, take steps to find that community, whether it's Zen Loft Collective or something else, where you can feel like you're a part of something with other people who are experiencing a similar season as you. Here's my conversation with Kelly Vida. How did the open house go from your perspective?
Good. Yeah. We had a good group of women come in and kind of stay the whole time.
Yeah.
We marked the event with a free yoga class to start and then a free sound and Reiki class to end. And so
nice.
There was a lot of interest in those and then, a lot of great networking.
Yeah.
And then, of course, some people came up off the street just to kind of check out the space and who we are. We're planning on doing something again when the boardwalk shops are open and the farmers market is live and hustling and bustling because there's just so many people that come, in and through this area.
You can kind of redirect people off the street a little bit.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I came in just to check it out, and I was really struck by how many different things there are. For me, I think before we talked, I was thinking it's a yoga thing, right? Do you find that a lot of people assume it's that simple and that's it?
Yeah. Sometimes we feel like we have a little bit of an identity crisis.
Yeah.
We're like the spaces at Zen Loft Collective.
Yeah.
And then we, encourage anyone to kind of bring their own expertise and interest to it. So I personally run the fitness and yoga portion. But then we will rent it out to other sound healers or yoga instructors. We have Allie McGee aerial classes here every Wednesdays and Thursdays. And so it really is a space if someone's looking to host a class or host an experience.
Yeah.
And we don't have anything going on. We'd love for them to be in. And that's what you were seeing, some of our regular renters looking to grow and expand their business.
Right. I think it's cool. It reminds me of Red Hive Market in the sense of we have this space, we're opening up to a collective of people.
Right.
And what is this space? Well, it depends on what people are here,
right,
essentially. And that's kind of what defines it.
Yeah.
Is this what you predicted it would feel like? Is the nature of what Zen Loft Collective is what you had in mind when you started it? Or have you been surprised by who has come in and helped make it what it is?
Yeah. I feel like I didn't have any expectations when we started.
Yeah.
I might have held on to certain thoughts of what it should be or what should be allowed in this space. And those have completely changed over time. So,
how so?
So at first we were getting a lot of requests for like birthday parties.
Okay.
And I was like, no, I don't think, that's really the space for it.
Yeah.
And then we started hosting something called toddler time. And we just opened up the space and let kids run and burn off energy because, it's too cold to go to parks or other outdoor activities. And that really made me realize this is a great space for kids as well as adults. And so now we host birthday parties, but you might have also seen like the mom prom that we recently did.
Yeah.
It's really morphed into more of like a family-centric space, I would say, than maybe what we started with, just serving women or adults.
That's really interesting. It sort of gradually turned. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it turned into a more of a family-oriented thing? Is it the nature of Batavia? Is it the nature of what you're doing?
Someone came up to me and asked if they could host a toddler time. And I have an almost 3-year-old and 1.5-year-old. And I was like, yeah, that's perfect. I'll bring my kids.
Yeah.
We need a place
You're like,
to
I'd
run
love
around.
to have something like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And, we had been going to like the play cafes or like indoor play specific locations, but that can get expensive quickly.
Right.
And maybe there's just too many kids or not age specific toys. Having young ones, they can't do everything at some of these play cafes. Yeah. Just people coming and asking, if we can do something in the space. And then there too, being a mom of 2 young ones, like what experiences do I want to provide to my children? Yeah. And so that's why the mom prom, or we recently had family movie night and Elsa popped in. All of these things where, I want to make it family friendly for my own personal use case or, own personal experiences, but then also provide that to a lot of the students that we have, and then they'll bring friends, and it's really branched out.
Right.
So I would say the last piece to it is that we serve young moms in a lot of the fitness classes that we have. And so just wanting to create a space for them to come to and have their kids run around and have fun and feel safe, that all of those kind of morphed it into what it is.
That's cool. It sounds like you had some like personal needs or like desires, but didn't want to implement them immediately. Like you had a toddler, you would have liked a place to do something like that, but it took other people saying, actually, we would like that as well to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. I do think it sometimes it just takes a little push. And that's a nice feeling where you're like, oh yeah, I did kind of want to do that or have that. And I'm not alone in that.
Right.
That's a good feeling, I think. Tell me about the space we're in and what it means to you.
I think it's just, like a sense of achievement. So I've been teaching yoga for about 3 years now and always renting spaces from other people. And so like when I turn the lights off at night, just feeling like a sense of pride and accomplishment. And as you can probably tell, like I get a little choked up about it because like it is a long time coming, I guess you could say.
Yeah. It's a beautiful space. We were talking about the natural light.
Yeah.
It's really stunning. I was telling you when I visited for open house, I don't see the downtown area from high very often. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen it from up high before. So it's this really nice like feeling of like, it just feels set apart in that way. I don't know. So what made you choose this space specifically?
It really was that it was turnkey. It was kind of everything I wanted. So I've talked to a lot of other women in the like prenatal space. So pelvic floor therapists, just other therapists. And I was looking for a space where there was a treatment room, where there was an area to do yoga, and then a space for childcare. And this kind of has all 3 of those.
Right.
More or less when I walked in and saw it, it was, like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And then my business partner, Emily, she owns Zen Loft Wellness in Aurora. And she was looking to expand her brand. And neither of us could really do it on our own. And just like serendipitous, it all came together.
What were you doing before this?
Just renting space, holding a couple hourly classes at various locations in St. Charles, Geneva.
Yeah.
But knowing that beyond that class, I wanted to do special events and have a place for my kids to go and have fun. And this may sound silly, but, I always thought about going to my dad's work.
Yeah. What did your dad do?
Well, he was in sales.
Okay.
But we used the copy machine.
Yeah.
And, we played on the projector, silly things. But as a kid, that's really cool to go to your parents' work and kind of take over.
And that inspired you to want to do something like that?
Right, to have my own space where I could bring my kids and, they could kind of grow up and just, they call it like mommy's studio.
Yeah, that's valuable, I think, to have some place for them to go and be, and then take part in the programming and stuff is cool.
Yeah. And it's awesome, well, really at any time of day, but I'll teach evening classes on Mondays and the sun sets into the yoga studio.
Yeah.
Or when I leave at 8 or 9, the street lights are glowing in.
Nice.
And it's just like these magical feelings that you kind of get throughout the day. And then we're looking at kind of a window wall between two of the spaces where we have those rainbow curtains, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And that just casts every shade of the rainbow on the yoga studio floor at certain times of the day. So yeah.
I love that.
Just so many different things, especially with the lights. You'll get like certain feelings and it'll make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Pretty much always calm and happy, but
awesome.
kind of a range of feelings.
That's you need that when you're running a business.
Yeah.
I feel like. What is the first time you remember feeling like you belonged in Batavia?
I mean, we've been here for almost a year now.
Okay.
I think we signed the lease just like at this point last year, but the classes started in April. And really just seeing like the outpouring of support in the first few months.
What did that look like?
Just regular class attendees coming back, week after week or class after class.
Yeah.
And so that's always exciting to see people come and feel like they belong here, and find a community here of women in similar stages of life or, just others who are looking for a little bit of relaxation or respite from everything that's going on outside the studio doors.
I love that idea of like what helps you feel like you belong is helping other people feel like they belong. There's a reciprocal nature to that.
Yeah.
Do you live in Batavia?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
So when you started this business here, that was your introduction to Batavia.
Right.
So there must have been part of you that was like, you need to be accepted by Batavia in some way.
Right. Yeah. And as I mentioned, a lot of our classes speak to women in various stages of their lives, not necessarily just motherhood, but I teach classes, yoga for fertility, and then yoga for pregnancy, postpartum, and we have some offerings for perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah.
And so that's all to say that these are very specific times in our lives where we need community. And oftentimes you may feel alone or, it can be very isolating if you're the only one going through it. Coming and finding 3 to 5 other women in the same exact stage, feeling the same exact things.
Yes.
That's really powerful.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wife, I think she would not, she's talked about this publicly, so I feel like I can. She's struggled with postpartum for a long period of time. And the primary feeling you have is alone. You know what I mean? So it's so valuable to have not just things for people who have had kids recently, but these hyper-specific moments in women's lives that they struggle or they're not sure if they're crazy or whatever,
for sure.
Really valuable, I think.
Yeah.
Have you had people articulate that, how that is helping them in that way to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite often.
How does that feel?
Good. I mean, that's why I wanted a space. I didn't want to just be an hourly renter from someone. I wanted it to be like that safe.
You wanted to own it and let other people own it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then having the space allows me to bring in therapists, like mental health professionals, as well as physical healers, so that there may not be people who you're plugged into, but now this is a nice soft introduction without having to go one-on-one with something, like postpartum depression.
Yes.
Oh, I attended a 1-hour special event at Zen Loft Collective And we just kind of talked about birth experiences. And now I feel very comfortable reaching out to that therapist and having one-on-one conversations.
Today's episode of Area Code Batavia is brought to you by Bulldog Plumbing. I don't know if you knew this, but Batavia has what is considered to be hard water. As a result, a lot of Batavia residents have a water softener installed in their house to solve some of the problems that come with hard water. We got a water softener soon after we moved into the house because we started noticing that there was a lot of buildup from the hard water. It was messing with our appliances. Our coffee maker started having weird flakes in it. It was strange. So we had to get that taken care of with a water softener. If you've had a water softener for more than 5 years, it's probably time for a tune-up. Bulldog Plumbing is offering a special $80 water softener tune-up that includes water testing and system optimization. So if you need a water softener tune-up or any other services, call Bulldog Plumbing at 630-313-9109 or click the link in the show notes. That's Bulldog Plumbing. Reliable, honest, local.
You talked about you were renting out spaces and doing classes, and then you decided to start this collective. That's a very different thing. Can you describe the moment you decided you wanted to do that?
I feel like I always wanted it, especially as I worked with other local women offering, services for pregnant and postpartum women specifically. And, I would often talk to them about having a space where we all came together. And it was kind of like a one-stop shop, for someone to go to. And so that was always the dream, but the space never presented itself.
Yeah. What was it, just the availability of the space that caused you to make the jump, or was there something else that told you like, okay, I'm ready to do this?
I think it was the space.
So you heard this space was open?
Yes.
And then
Yeah. So I had been looking at other spaces. And
okay. So you've been looking.
Yeah. I don't know how many I went to, but they were, like old office buildings, or they were something else.
Yeah.
And so to repurpose them as a yoga studio or kind of like this wellness center idea would have taken some work. And so walking in here and having that studio and having the extra spaces, the wellness room and the space for childcare.
Yeah.
It was like, this was meant to be.
So I want to go back a little further because obviously you have this ambition and you're choosing to act on that ambition, whether or not the space is available.
Sure.
You're already intentional about that. I'm curious what got you there. Like what got you to the place where I'm going to find a space to do this?
I think it was just like teaching classes for a year or so and being like, I can do so much more with this. And I can offer those specialty workshops and et cetera, et cetera. I can have mom prom, have a place to celebrate with my kids. And I would say about a year or so into just teaching classes, I was like, I want to do more with this.
So it's things like mom prom, places to do the thing you wanted to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't know if you would say fly by the seat of my pants, but like I'll have an idea. I'm like, let's put it on the calendar and just do it.
I love it.
Don't overthink it. And a week or two before, that's when I'll figure it all out. I have all these things planned out.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll just figure it out as I go.
Okay. This is a personal train of thought that I want to go on because I used to be like that.
Yeah.
I feel like when I was like 20 something, I used to be like that. I feel like working for other people, working in institutions has kind of trained that out of me. I'm curious how you kept that and or relearned that. Did you always have that? And how did you keep that sense of, I have an idea, I'm not going to overthink it. I thought about this podcast for 2 years before it happened.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Like you don't need 2 years to think about and plan for a podcast.
Yeah.
So how did you get to the point where you're able to do things in like that short of time?
I guess I'm just crazy. I don't know. You know, it's this weird thing. Postpartum, I had this like insane rush from learning new things or like creating new experiences.
Interesting. Like in a new way.
Yeah. So case in point, I've gotten like 4 certifications specific to fertility, pregnancy, perimenopause since giving birth to my daughter 3 years ago. And it's just like this, I'm like craving I don't know if it's like a dopamine rush,
That makes total sense to me.
Buying books, learning things, having a space, just like going all in on things. It's maybe even just an outlet too, kind of stepping away from day-to-day responsibilities or, like necessarily focusing on being like the perfect mom 100% of the time. This is kind of my time and what I really enjoy doing.
That makes total sense to me. Yeah. So it's almost like the inability to do certain things for a while caused you to be like more grateful for when you could. And you're like, I got to do as much as I can while I can.
Yeah. It's funny. Like the self-care days, quote unquote, for me is Saturday after my classes, I stay here and I clean and I just like rock out to music.
I love that.
Last week I set up for a glow in the dark yoga party and I just walked away so happy.
I love that.
Yeah, because it was just like I was in the zone, just nothing else to do.
Do you find that other people, the people who come here and who feel like they belong here, is that rubbing off on them, do you think?
I feel like they can feel my energy, and excitement for doing things like this.
Yeah.
I will say some things fall to the wayside, like administrative tasks. I'm not great. If someone's still waiting on an email from me, you're on my list. Right. I promise you.
Yeah.
But
you're on my list, which doesn't mean much, but you're there. There's an intentionality there.
Right. Yeah. And so that's why I think I'll take back to the dopamine rush. Sometimes just rocking out to music and cleaning the studio gives me like this boost of energy that email responses don't.
Right. Yes. I get that. How did you expect it to go when you started Zen Loft Collective?
In all honesty, like I thought we would have like just really full classes and, like this overwhelming support. And I think like most small business owners, you learn that things take time.
Yeah.
And sometimes those emails do, lead to more full classes or the networking aspect, everything that I just kind of talked about, like administrative tasks.
Oh my gosh, I'm relating so hard to what you're saying right now. Yeah, this is extremely
like if you don't, people, I think it is like just don't know what's there. And so that's why I love, talking to people like you or others who maybe say, what is Zen Loft Collective? Yeah. I can kind of lay out at least my vision for the space. Mm-hmm. And then I think that gets them excited about either the classes or the ability to rent it for something, maybe a workshop that they wanted to have, but just could never find the space or a kid's birthday party where, they just don't want to spend like an arm and a leg. And so all of that is to say that we have really seen a lot more, I think, just awareness in like the last few months. But yeah, I think I was kind of shocked about all the administrative stuff.
Yeah, all the administrative stuff and how slow growth can be sometimes. I mean, it can be hard to get the awareness that you need. And especially with something like this, I mean, I feel like in some ways podcasting has something in common in challenge-wise with what you're doing, which is that it's not a casual person who walks in here. It's not like, oh, I'll check it out.
Right.
It's a person who wants or is at least considering really committing and investing. So I tell people like with podcasting, the numbers are lower than like social media, but they're not just flipping through. They're listening to a whole episode.
Right.
When someone walks in here, they're not going to browse and walk out.
Right.
They're going to do a class for at least an hour or something.
Right.
And so, the barrier to entry is higher. The barrier to leaving is also higher, which is good.
Yeah.
But that means growth is slower.
Right.
You don't get that spike in the beginning, which is a nice dopamine rush, but this never happens.
Right. No, but I think it's allowed us to kind of play around with what works, what people want, what times work for classes. And then it's really forced me maybe outside of the studio a little bit. So we look to partner with local businesses. Like we have a Pilates class at Sturdy Shelter, or we do mommy caregiver and baby yoga at the library. Things like that where we're now collaborating with the community and I'm not quote unquote networking, you know, administrative stuff, we're still getting our name out there, but in a way that everyone can experience what we offer, kind of bringing that to them.
That's good.
And then the other big thing is puppy yoga.
Yeah, right. Yes.
And
so people bring their own puppies?
No, we work with a local rescue.
It's not BYOP.
No.
There's puppies provided.
Right.
And you do yoga.
Yeah. I sent out an email like the day before that says, mats, puppies, everything's provided. Right. Don't worry about bringing anything.
That's so good.
But no, we partner with a local rescue and they'll bring, 8 to 12 puppies at any given class. And it's great for puppy socialization, but then it's just like a great way to de-stress. So many people bring their kids and there's another family fun event and it's like a win-win across the board.
That's amazing. Was there ever a moment before or after you started this where you questioned whether it was a good idea? It sounds like you've always wanted to do it. Did you ever question it?
Maybe, like I said, with slow growth, it was like, man, is this the right thing? Should I just go back to renting?
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of like that fly by the seat. Another way in which we've changed how we look at the space and offerings. Like, how can I bring people in that may not be a class? And so that's where a lot of these workshops and family-focused events have come from. More
accessible things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you don't have to find a sitter or you can kind of bring everything that
come as you
need.
are. And yeah.
Not to say that I'm still questioning it. It's kind of like now I live for the challenge.
Oh, I love that. That's good. I think the thing that occurred to me earlier that I forgot to say when you were talking about the slow growth is like communities are created that way. You don't just snap your fingers and you have a community.
Right.
Unless you're like pivoting one community to another, which is not the case here. Right. You're trying to build something from the ground up within the Batavia community and you're trying to find your people.
Yeah.
And that takes time, but that is what creates a healthy community.
Yeah.
It seems like.
And having such a niche product, in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm sure a lot of people are looking for this.
Yeah.
And maybe they are, but they don't know it exists. So they're not looking.
Right.
You know, that would be really great if someone offered that. And so I'm over here like, I'm offering it. It's not just that Batavia didn't have it, so I brought it. It's the western suburbs don't have it. Outside of city, local, it doesn't really exist. So one reason why I started it is because there wasn't anything specific for pregnant women, and I was pregnant. So I would have to modify my own classes or just like work out on my own. And again, we talked about just kind of feeling alone during that time and not having a community. It's so great because you'll see these women after having kids, having play dates.
Yeah.
And like nothing brought them together outside of class. Not to like toot my own horn, but that is what keeps me going.
I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you are the most moved person I've ever interviewed.
Yeah.
I think that matters. That's really striking to me because I've interviewed a lot of different businesses, organizations that are about community and establishing communities. One of the things I love about Batavia, there's very few business owners who are like, we just want to sell and make money. I mean, they wouldn't say that anyway, but you can kind of tell when that's the case.
Yeah.
What you're doing is a really specific community. And covering a very specific need, which I think is maybe why it hits you so hard. That's brave. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's occurring to me right now as you're talking to me that it's brave to talk about, but it's also brave just to put yourself out there and to be vulnerable enough to say, I get it. We are all out here struggling, and so let's get together. Did that not hold you back a little bit from acting on it?
I told my husband, I feel like in a past life, I must have been a gambler. I'm not now.
You're a risk taker. Yeah.
Right. But I always feel like it's too good to be true. It's like all the luck is stacked on my side.
Okay.
And at some point it's going to hit, Oh,
wow.
Like my number's going to hit.
Is that a good feeling or a bad feeling? Because I actually can't tell the way you're describing it.
No, I'm just like always living, for like my number to hit. And so like I may take a little bit more risk than others would because I feel like the reward is greater.
It's there somewhere. It's coming.
Like reward is not financial gain.
Yeah. Yeah, we can tell.
Although it's nice.
Can tell. Yeah.
It's like altruistic, feelings.
Feeling like you're helping people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, like I get Christmas cards from the moms of their little ones and Like I cry every time.
I love that.
Because it's so sweet.
Yeah. What has owning a business in Batavia in particular taught you about yourself?
Sorry, I'm going to just take a minute here.
Yeah.
I'm also kind of thinking.
You okay?
Yeah. Sorry. Like I didn't think it'd be so like.
Is this okay?
Emotional.
Are you feeling okay? Are you feeling okay about the
Yeah.
conversation? Okay.
Yeah. This woman never not cry. But I think it exposed what I'm trying to say is my own need for that community.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say it without, but.
You weren't as aware of that need until you created it?
Yeah. I think it is just like, as a mom, sometimes you just like go, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you'll see like all the memes about filling your own cup so you can help others, but sometimes it's hard. And so maybe that's like why it's so important to me, because like for my own, you know, for my own well-being, like it's meant a lot.
That
so,
is.
anyways, I'll gather myself and say that over. But being in Batavia specifically, there's like a lot of young families.
Yeah.
And so just like having friends of my own has really been, you know, powerful and important to me.
Friends of your own that have come from this.
Right.
Yeah. It's really striking to me that you yourself, the person who started this, were unaware of how deeply you needed a space like this, which presents a challenge for encouraging people to join, but you're also able to model it. It's just interesting. It's like this tension where you are seeing the benefits for yourself and for others around you.
Yeah.
The challenge is how to articulate that to others.
Right.
And in particular, like the meme thing is such a good example of what I've seen of the moms in my life, of friends I have who are women and have kids, is there really is. And we could have a whole conversation about men and this, because I think there's a similar thing happening there. It's just
not talked about.
It's like it's hard to get yourself to the point where you recognize how deep the need is outside of like doing a thing here or there. Yeah. And the thing that I feel is missing from a lot of that is community, is this thing where you're not doing it by yourself. Even I struggle with like when I have self-care time or whatever, usually I go see a movie by myself. That's like my self-care. What I don't do enough is call a friend or hang out with a friend or whatever.
Yeah, that's what these classes are.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking to a friend.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And right when you ask, you know, what I've kind of learned about myself or, you know, having it in this space in Batavia, it's really like that need for community for myself.
Yeah.
And Batavia just has families, you know, in the same kind of stage of life and kind of similar ages. And so it all just comes together maybe as it wouldn't in the area.
Do you think that Batavia is uniquely suited, not just in terms of need, but in terms of openness to this concept? Is there a feeling of Batavia is excited about community maybe in ways that other towns might not be?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are very proud. And I mean, every town, people are proud to be a part of welcoming others to their town to see like what great offerings they have. Mm-hmm. I would say that's been a big part of how we've grown over the past year is people who reside in Batavia bring their friends with them to class, and their friends are from other local towns.
Yeah. It just occurred to me, I'd love to ask, because this is fundamentally a podcast about Batavia, what are you learning from the people who are part of your community about what it is like to be a mom in Batavia? Is there anything in particular that is standing out to you?
I don't think it's particular to Batavia, but I mean, everywhere or like every event that we have, it'll be like, it's just so hard to meet mom friends, you know?
Yeah.
And so, especially when the weather gets icky, it's like, well, parks are out or, you know, certain other locations that maybe you relied on aren't there anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, where do you go? It's kind of like meeting someone after a certain age. Like, how do you meet someone?
Yep.
And moms especially.
What is it about Zen Loft Collective that could only work in Batavia?
I think maybe the rawness of how I create things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I said, I just do it because I think we need it. And people go along with it.
As opposed to what?
well planned out, overthought, or, I'll give you an example. I was doing an event and someone emailed me months in advance asking me, like how to prepare. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I'll think about that. I'll think about that in a few weeks. And in a way, it's maybe even how I've stacked the events. It's like spinning plates.
Yeah.
I will come to that spinning plate when it is wobbling. I don't know if people have just come to accept me and that's how how my brain works, or if that has to do just with the laid back and kind of relaxed nature of Batavia. I ever ask you to be a part of an event, whoever's listening to this, you understand that I work kind of in a just-in-time model. I think just having people aware of who we are and excited that we're here and supporting us in whatever way that looks like for them. I understand yoga and fitness is not for everyone, so it might not be coming to a class, but maybe it's just telling a friend, or, if someone is pregnant, letting them know that we have offerings specific to that, or if you're a mom and you have little ones, knowing that we have childcare during morning classes and telling your friends that. So, helping us grow while also supporting your own needs and those of the community that you live in.
Right. What about you as an individual? What do you think it would look like for you to belong?
I think it is just like walking down the street and people knowing who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that I've thought of. I don't know, eating at Sidecar and someone being like, "Oh, Kelly, good to see you."
Yes. Yeah.
That would be really cool.
Thanks for listening to Area Code Batavia. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. If you enjoyed this podcast, you should absolutely subscribe to the newsletter. Not only will we let you know when a new episode is out, but you'll also receive a weekly list of 5 concrete ways to belong in Batavia. Just click the link in the show notes. Most importantly, if you know someone who would love to hear this podcast, please share it with them. Word of mouth is the best way to grow our community and help more people feel like they belong in Batavia, Illinois. Area Code Batavia is produced by Area Code Audio. It's hosted and produced by me, Richard Clark, with additional production help from Jennifer Clark. Edited and mixed by Matt Linder.